Very pleasant good morning, good afternoon, good evening, magandang umaga po, magandang tanghali, magandang hapon, magandang gabi. Welcome to the Chronicles, and this is Rita Gadi. Every once in a while, we speak of leadership, and we speak of those in politics, and we speak of those who are actually holding positions of influence and so forth. And sometimes episodes in one's life or some event actually defines the character of a person. So here we have, for instance, Tacloban City, which prior to the Typhoon Yolanda, or what we know internationally as Haiyan, we have Mayor ALFRED Romualdez then, who was just recognized as a cousin of the Marcos family and related to the old man Ferdinand Edradin Marcos and Imelda Romualdez Marcos. But an event happened in Tacloban that defined the character and, of course, the credibility and the leadership of this man who is our special guest this afternoon. Mayor ALFRED Romualdez of Tacloban City. Good afternoon, Mayor ALFRED.
Hi, hello, and sa mga tigapakinig and Ma'am Rita, and it's good to see you again. It's been a while.
Yes, okay, but we've seen Tacloban many times. Ang ganda talaga. It's a beautiful place. But after the typhoon, grabe talaga. It's the devastation was something which was, well, indescribable. But you stood out, Mayor, and that exactly defined what leadership is, how the people loved you, how you loved the people. You never left them. You stood by them. And then, of course, today we have several other, well, man-made or natural calamities, not as serious as it was that happened in Tacloban. But just by way of sharing, and those were difficult times because, it's a different administration and it was difficult to get assistance, but the whole world responded to you. But nonetheless, now that we have several storms also hitting several areas in our country, perhaps you could share, should there be priorities? Pag tinabaan ka ng disaster, anong una mong gagawin? Or everything becomes a priority?
Well, it depends on the location. It depends the challenges
disaster
that you're faced with. It depends where you are situated. If you're in the coastal area, if you're in a danger zone, and most LGUs know that as of now. They know their situation and they know their locality very well. And I think that's critical. That's number one. No? And studying now your resources. But in preparation for any disaster, really, it's I would say 99% preparation and anticipation. If a disaster strikes, whether man-made or not, you have to be ready. But I think the most important aspect there is when it happens, and it usually is something new, you have to prepare to adapt to the situation depending on the resources that you have. Kasi maraming beses na nakadikahon yung plano nyo, pero pag tama ng isang malakas na bagyo, katulad niyan, inaabangan nila yung malakas na hangin, pero ang dumating tubig. So malakas na na tubig at mataas na tubig, at yun talagang nag-cause ng maraming casualty. So paghahandaan nyo sa lahat ng aspeto na yan. At hindi lang paghahanda, pagdating sa sitwasyon na nangyayari yan, and you have to remember that your decisions will always be something that's very liquid, that you have to change tactics at the same time. You also, not major, but you have to just change to adapt to the situation. And most of all, your people have to prepare. Katulad niyan, if we're talking about preparation for an LGU, look, recently we are all focused on calamities, disasters, and then we got hit by a pandemic. which I could see that maybe many government agencies did their best, to cope with the situation. Ang masasabi ko, katulad niyan, ginagawa namin, when we hire people in the city government, sometimes makikita mo nurses pero they're doing administrative work. Because when a time comes na magkaroon tayo ng isa pang pandemic, malaking bagay yun eh. Hindi na tayo magre-recruit ng mga bagong nurses, lalo na pag nagkaroon ng shortage. At you also get people that are trained. You have to train them in preparation for any disaster. No? But I'll go further ahead, with all of this. The problem now is you have so much development, and yet with all those development that's happening, ang nangyayari kulang sa master plan. You have the Department of Public Works building roads, highways, drainages, and it really affects the environment. At the same time, there should be proper planning. There should be a master plan for an entire island, for that matter. So, pag sinabi natin kailangan gumawa ng road network, alam na kagad kung saan ilalagay yung kalye, gaano kataas, ilang cross drain yung ilalagay dyan. Kasi roads are very important. It's critical because most of the utilities pass through the roads. And of course, the economy also relies on our roads and distribution. So kailangan may master plan yan Kaya nakikita ko talagang itong iba-ibang ahensya ng gobyerno, pag-aralan na talaga. May special group na dapat ibuo ng administrasyon para tignan talaga if these departments are still addressing the concerns of the people. Because, even kami na sa local government, maraming adjustment kaming ginawa Dahil minsan yung mandato ng isang departamento ay hindi na tugma dun sa dapat nilang gawin dahil nag-iiba ng panahon. So, kailangan, ang nangyayari niyan, sa bilis ng mga paiba-iba ng mga kailangan gawin, like for example, DSWD before was not really involved in creating now these evacuation centers. At the same time, also the temporary housing. That's why we had difficulty there. Yung nangyari dito, almost 1 year, the people were still living in tents because they were not prepared in how to build this what they called bunk houses before, di ba? Nagkaroon tayo ng problema doon. So now, learning this, having this experience, they become lessons that each department now should prepare. And so hindi pa ulit-ulit kasi itong bagyo matagal na to. Hindi pa tayo pinapakanak, lagi na tayong tinatamaan ng bagyo. There's nothing new to that.
That's true.
So it's about time, not only innovation but preparation, and really also focusing now in developing the skills of our people, especially those that are in government. Hindi na purely social services ang binibigay natin dito. Kasama na rin yan sa planning, sa zoning, kasama na yan, addressing climate change, you're addressing now, and how do you sustain your population according to the resources that you have, the natural resources that you have in your political jurisdiction. So, lahat ito pinag-aaralan talaga itong pag-aralan. Kaya napaka-importante na kailangan i-focus natin yan. Kaya tayo nagkakaproblema rin. Katulad yan, yung now being RPOC chairman, and we see the difficulty that we're having now in the island of Samar because they really lack a road network there. But we have to be careful because building a road network there also will require some studies. Because pag gumawa ka ng kalye doon, aabutin ng mga 30-40 kilometers yan. Baka pag natapos yung kalye na yan, magugulat na lang natin yung isang municipality na hindi naman binaba, biglang underwater na ngayon dahil naapektuhan. Because building a highway like that is like building a dike. So, there are things that we really have to look into and make sure that, they're all connected.
Yeah. Tama yan, Mayor, na sinabi mo there has to be a master plan. Nung unang panahon, before we have what it is now, the cities and the towns, ang master plan nun, yung sa simbahan, katabi yung eskwelahan, andun ang palengke, andun ang ang square, yun, magkakasama na yon sa parang plaza. But in time, sabi mo nga, development does not exactly jibe with what is needed for that particular location. Ang nangyari ngayon kasi, Mayor, wala tayong land use law. Hindi pa talaga natutupad kung saan ang residential, kung saan ang mga factories, kung saan nalagay ang palengke. So, this land use should be also adapted to each town or city kung ano ang pangangailangan nila. As you said, pwedeng magdagawa ng kalsada but it is not, agreeable with the way the water flows kaya nagkakaroon ng problema. So, that's it.
Yes, you're correct. But actually, there is already a what we call may zoning na yan. It's a requirement, may zoning na yan. And then, hindi lang zoning at the land use plan is actually done by the local government unit and then it is submitted to HUDC and it is approved there, no? So I can say, maraming beses na pag-aralan yan. But now it makes it different because we have climate change. So there are now areas now that we thought were safe zones but actually are danger zones. So ito ngayon ang pumapasok itong mga bagong data na pumapasok kaya kailangan mag-realign. Kaya nagka-problema rin kahit nung panahon ng Yolanda nga dahil nag-issue nga sila ng 40-meter no-build zone which was a problem. That applies to rivers and streams, waterways, but that does not apply sa coastal area. Because sa coastal area nga, pwede naman natin gamitin. Kung mo sa Luneta, hindi naman pwede no-build zone. Pwede ka maglagay ng grandstand doon, pero aayusin lang na hindi dapat dapat ilagay doon no dwelling. So these things now are being done, no. In fact, I would say many agencies are involved. In fact, I'm very happy that we have DNR Secretary Yulo there, who's very active, and it's really critical. DNR has to step in and has to see, because sayang, we waste so much money, billions, the government to build something that is a danger zone. And in fact, if you ask many urban planners, they will tell you that 80% of the cities in the Philippines are in danger zones.
Wow.
So it was really lack of planning from the very beginning.
So be that as it may, Mayor, ando na yun. Like even in here in the metropolis, for instance, you have buildings where they should not be. So you have there in the municipalities, in the cities, yung sinasabi mo nga na pag minsan hindi sila kailangan andon. So with what happened with that big disaster of a storm surge, naayos na ba yung mga, as you said, yung mga kinakailangan ng mga tao kung saan sila titira? I think there was a place up in the hills or in the mountain where several of those in the shoreline were already relocated. So lahat yung mga supposedly danger zones or danger areas, sabi mo nga sa coastal areas, naayos na ba yan sa kasalukuyan? So,
marami nito na ayos na. In fact, nakapagpagawa na ang NHA ng mga pabahay dito sa northern part of the city. But one time I was a guest at the World Bank in Washington, D.C. And one of the important things that was mentioned there is that when you craft a policy, like for example, housing, to make that successful, or one main ingredient, it must be adaptable to our culture. And many the designs now of NHA, their houses, are actually a design for maybe a couple and one child. Alam mo naman dito sa Pilipinas, average is 4 to 5 children. So it's really not adaptable. So they have to redesign that. Not only that, you have to look at the culture. Some of them, if you're providing housing for farmers or for areas in the I would say in the rural areas, hindi naman pwedeng 4-story yan because lahat yan may mga alagang hayop yan. Paano hindi nila kukunin yung binibigay mong bahay doon. Ang gagawin nila, kukunin yan, kunyari nandun sila nakatira pero paupahan lang nila yan. Ipeperahin lang nila yan. So it's not really, addressing the issues or the problem. That's why it's very critical. What happens here, when they make a policy, it's very critical that the gathering of data, it should be very, I would say, active and direct. So makikita nyo. But also allowing for, some changes and giving some allowances because there will be changes, ganun naman yun eh. And I think we can do it. It's like imagine building a 10 row of houses na dikit-dikit pagkatapos average children are 4 children. Then you have 40 children in one small block of 10 houses, di ba?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's not, also, uh, I would say conducive, but at the same time, it's not healthy also in building our families. Alam mo, dapat ang concentration natin the future really of the Philippines is the next generation. And we really have to focus on them because itong katulad ng pabahay, napaka-importante yan eh. Ang mangyayari dito paano naman sila gaganahan at mamahalin yung gobyerno nila kung yung mismong inuuwian nila o yung tinayo na bahay para sa kanila talagang hindi naman maganda at minsan sakit pa ng ulo sa kanila yon. So hindi sapat, hindi tama.
Yeah,
So these are things lang na I see. And like when we talk of insurgency, for example, nakita ko for the last 54 years, we've had that problem. And nakita ko na it's really poverty, it's really, it's a revolution basically of farmers, complaining and, having difficulty. Mahirap yan kasi katulad yan, may land reform tayo, pero hindi naman sapat yun Hindi naman basta bibigyan mo ng lupa, okay na Siyempre, kailangan ng tao ng puhunan. Unlike before, we had a system wherein rural banks were around, wherein you could use your
Yes,
title,
yes, that's
then you
true.
could borrow money and do that, no? And then there was also irrigation program, they were very active, with that. That's why you could, you're able to insure your land. Yan din ang hinahanap ng mga bangko, kung may insurance ba yung lupa mo, yung crops mo na tinaniman mo, di ba? Para they want to also to make sure that, they're paid. So, ang nangyayari ngayon, dahil wala yan, then, you have businessmen coming in na nagpa 5-6, pautang dito, pautang doon. Katulad yan, may problema na naman tayo sa bigas. Bakit hindi tayo magkakaproblema sa bigas? Kasi ang iniisip ng mga tao, kala mo, itong mga sabihin natin, magsasaka na to, ay hindi naman binibenta nila bigas, ang binibenta ng mga yan, palay. Ibibenta nila yan, pagkatapos kailangan i-milling mo yan, wala naman silang pera para dyan So, ang gagawin, yung mga millers, pautangin yan ng 5-6. So, pagkatapos, paglabas ng mga nila, babayaran lang sila, bibilhin na napakamura yung bigas na yan, hawak na ng negosyante yan. So, mas malaki pa ang kinikita ng mga middleman kaysa naman yung mismo magsasaka. Kaya hirap na lagi utang ng utang lang taon ng taon. So, balang araw, gagawin niya, hindi sasabihin sa gobyerno, gagawin niya, ibebenta na lang niya yung lupa na yan, pero nasa kapangalan pa rin sa kanya, pero may kasulatan na, nilipat na niya. Ganoon naman nangyayari ngayon Pagkatapos, these are realities that, that all these agencies really have to look into. Tama na itong mga intayin ng report ng director, intayin yung report ng kung ano-ano. Pagkatapos, nakikita nila hindi talaga hindi tugmasa nangyayari kaya nakakaawa talaga and this is what's happening diyan sa insurgency.
Exactly.
Ang nangyari dito, mga NPA pinamigay yung tinake-overa nila maraming area, pagkatapos yung mga lupa binigay sa mga membro nila, pagkatapos pagbigay dun sa mga membro nila humingi sila ng 10% sa mga ani nila. Pagkatapos, siyempre, kaya naman natuwa naman yung mga ibang mga farmers doon. Pero may suporta. Hindi lang yan. Yung problema pa dyan na talagang pinag-aralan, nagkaroon ng master plan itong mga to Pero ngayon, there's a lot of people, nakikita namin. In fact, the insurgency, I feel, will end already in a month or two. Based on the reports and the briefings that we've been seeing. So, it's really economics, it's really poverty. But I think we can solve that But we have to be more, mas dapat itong planning natin very localized para makita natin. Kasi iba naman situation sa Visayas, iba naman situation sa Norte. Sa Luzon, iba naman din sa Mindanao eh. Kanya-kanya yan eh. Eh, ang mahirap yan eh, gagawa ka ng policy nationwide. Eh, paano yan? Minsan hindi nga adaptable to any of the cultures. Eh. Alam mo naman dito, Rita, bumiyahe ka lang ng mga 3-4 na oras eh, iba ng kultura eh. Iba
Exactly.
na nga yung katibayan, di ba?
Yeah.
So,
You're very,
kailangan talaga
yeah.
ito i-activate. And then, I feel also, activate and, empower many regional offices. Because actually, the regional offices, they hirap sila eh. Kulang sila sa budget, kulang sila sa tao, kulang sila sa mobility. So, I feel there should be more support when it comes to that. And even the way they look at local government units in terms of, their contribution to the national government. Like Tacloban is very small. We're only 22,000 hectares as compared to the other LGUs here. But the VAT sales that we contribute to the national government is so much that, it's so big, it's in the billions because lahat nga ng sales, di ba, yung VAT may 12%.
Central
Ilang
yan eh.
percent punta
Yeah,
sa national government,
Yeah.
napakalaki. Kaya makikita mo yung tulong natin sa national government, napakalaki. Pero ano naman ang tulong sa amin dito?
Exactly.
Yan
You
ang
know,
may problema.
yeah.
So there are many data actually
Yeah.
that they have to digest, they have to look into carefully. Like for example, during the day, capital cities like Tacloban City is the capital of the region. Our population increases ×4 every day. That's what happens. Pati pag weekend, dumadagdag pa rin ang populasyon namin dahil dito nagsha-shopping, dito lahat namimili. So we have to cater to people who are outside and that come in here. But the return there, the sales of the local government, may sales dito na nangyayari, yung sales ng VAT ay napakalaki. Ayun din ang napupunta sa national government. Ano yung napupunta sa amin? Sasabihin nila na, hindi, kasama na yan sa kwentahan, kasama na yan sa formula pag kinikwenta natin yung IRA nyo. Pero sa totoo lang, hirap na hirap ang Tacloban. Hirap na hirap kami dyan dahil ilan lang naman talagang IRA na binibigay dito sa syudad. Dapat tingnan nila yung contribution sa VAT sales. I-prioritize yan para, that makes us now a high-value city that especially if you're an economic hub like Tacloban.
Exactly.
So, dapat tingnan nila yun eh.
Yeah. You raise a very good point, Mayor Alfred, kasi karamihan kasi ng mga nababasa natin, nadidinig sa radyo, sa social networking, parang napakadali lang ng pamumuhay kahit saan man. Pero when you speak of your particular area, like in many rural areas, maganda nga yung sinabi mo tungkol sa pabahay. Halimbawa, hindi naman pwede na yung titirahan nila, walang lugar para meron silang konting babuyan o meron silang pwedeng taniman ng gulay, etc. We don't have that problem, we don't have that need here in the city kasi dito, grocery lang tsaka palengke. So there you have a different, as you said, depende sa kultura. And then you brought up another point also which is very important, Mayor. Kasi iba-iba ang mga pangangailangan sa mga cities na hindi nga natutugunan. There is a general policy, like for instance ngayon, kai-issue lang kahapon ng Executive Secretary pinirmahan according to the order of President Marcos Jr. na sinabi that they will have a price limit sa pagbenta ng bigas. So 41 to 45 pesos or parang yun na yung kaya ang dami nag-alma. And then you brought up that particular importance, yung food security na yan. Especially since you could consider Tacloban and the neighboring areas there, talagang rural area pa rin yung pinanggagalingan ng pagkain sa karagatan, ganun din. And this is what is being supplied to the city. In the same manner, kami dito sa Metro Manila, yun din na inaabangan namin. Yun ang gagaling sa mga probinsya na pagkain. But, as you said, and you rightly said that, kulang ang tulong dyan sa mga regional local government offices, mga regional offices, para matugunan talaga yung agricultural program na yan. Sapagkat madaling magsabi yan ang presyo, pero yung pagkain, aadihin, kulang talaga ng tulong. You mentioned something about rural banks and all of that. Ngayon nga, ang ating DBP, Mayor, at ang ating Land Bank, they're catering to commercial loans na. That is kasi yan sana ang makakatulong. You mentioned land reform. Tama ka, Mayor. Ano magagawa ng 7 hectares at lahat ng yan? Kailangan din yan ng tulong. So, many things also. I'm glad you brought that out, Mayor, kasi ganun din sa ibang lugar, ganyan din ang nagiging problema. We have to consider that. A master plan, but there has to be regional, regional concerns. Kagaya naman
Regional
sabi
concerns
niyo.
and nahihinayang ako dahil maraming mga bright boys sa Metro Manila. Simpleng-simple lang naman yung problema. Alam mo yung problema natin, sa production ng pagkain, nakikita ko, hindi naman talaga nagkukulang. Meron naman tayo niyan. Ang problema lagi sa atin, pati kuryente, pati nandyan yung source. Marami tayong sources, mayaman ng Pilipinas. Pero pagdating sa distribution, laging problema. Bakit? Katulad to, nangyayari. Tataka sila, bakit mahal na naman ang bigas, mahal na naman ang pagkain. Kasi alam mo, isang problema rin dyan. Kaya nakita ko yan 15 years ago with my father when he was the mayor. A simple thing Do we allow investors to come into the city of Tacloban? Many local businessmen opposed that because they wanted some sort of protectionism. So we did not allow that. We allowed all the malls to enter, all the groceries to enter. Why? Kasi pag pinayagan mo at pumasok lahat yan, magkakaroon ng kompetisyon. Kung ibebenta mo ng mahal, yung kalaban nila, yung competitor nila, ibebenta siyempre mas mura, mas mura. So there will be a price war. There is no need to really control the prices because all you do is flood the market. Now, there are some areas, for example, like Nueva Ecija, I was told, maraming production ng sibuyas, maraming production ng garlic, pero ang problema nila doon, kulang sila ng cold storage. So hindi nila na-maintain. Kaya nauubos dahil hindi sa consumption, dahil nasisira. Maraming mga agricultural products nasisira. Ngayon, papayagan nilang importation. Okay, payagan. Ako, I'm against smuggling. I really disagree, na kailangan talaga bawal ang smuggling. Pero, ang masasabi ko naman, dapat kung papayagan ninyo ang agricultural products na papasok sa Pilipinas, kunyari, sasabihin natin, pag papasok kayo ng 100 tons o 100,000 or 50,000 tons of rice, dapat ilimit lang na tigpa 5,000 lang ang isang importer. Ang mangyayari dyan ginagawa nila kunyari na marami, pero sa totoo lang, tatatlo lang yan Kaya nakokontrol din yung presyo. Pero kung payagan na, you just open the market and just give them a tariff that they have to pay. And I agree with the President. Sinasabi niya na timing is very important. So pagdating ng ani season, wag natin payagan. Pero pagdating na nakikita natin, nagkakaroon ng shortage. Bakit shortage? Kasi nagkakaroon tayo ng shortage dahil sabay-sabay inaani itong mga produkto. Pagkatapos hindi naman nila, syempre, maalagaan o ma-maintain, nabubulok kasi hindi nabibili kaagad. So nalulugi. So we address that problem. Then we can really now look at it, ilan ba talaga ang kulang, tsaka natin payagan mag-importation. Pero ang problema dyan, maraming corruption dyan sa importation na yan. Kasi pag-import nila, unang-una, hindi ako naniniwala na dapat masyadong taasan yung taripan at mga 30%, 25%. Hindi na. Ang gawin lang talaga, ilimit lang. Kung isang bagay, for example, kung 100,000 tons ang ipapasok mo, 50,000 tons, maximum 5 tons to 10 tons. Isang barko lang, pwede mo. Yung iba naman ang importer. Pag marami yan, magkakaroon ng competition ngayon. Siyempre, ikaw, kung makikita mo naman na napakabraba ng mga presyo ngayon kasi marami ka ng kalaban, kasi marami nag-import, anong mangyayari doon? Siyempre, pabagsakan ng presyo yan. Sino magbe-benefit yan? Tao magbe-benefit kasi pababa ang presyo. Ako, yun ang nakikita kong solusyon para dyan na napaka-importante. Kasi, kasi trabaho ko bilang mayor Ako sa totoo lang, Ma'am Rita, wala akong pakialam kung saan galing yung bigas na yan basta mura. Kasi sobrang daming mahirap Hindi naman natin mataasan yung minimum wage nila. Babaan naman natin yung cost of living nila. Pagkain yan Kaya importante talaga na itong sitwasyon natin na mahirap gutumin. You cannot, 80 million Filipinos to 90 million Filipinos cannot go hungry, especially now. My golly, what will happen to our country? Kaka-revolution tayo dito. Kaya ako, yun talagang nakikita ko na solusyon. At maraming mga ekonomista dyan, At maraming mga tao dyan na especially those on the ground will know that of course, like here, for example, in Tacloban, mababang ano namin dito, inflation namin. Bakit? Halos lahat ng grocery dito, mga mall, lahat, ang daming competition. So, kung magbenta ka ng mataas na bigas, syempre, bibili dun sa competitor sa kabila, bibili kayo mas mura. So, bagsakan naman ng presyo. Kaya ako, kailangan talaga, yan ang bigyan ng it's a natural law of supply and demand. And I feel, ako, siguro suggestion ko, talagang bigyan niya ng ultimatum ni Presidente, yung mga cabinet secretary niya, at hindi nila kaya gawain, pagsisipain niya yung mga yan. Kailangan sila talaga magtrabaho dyan because the President, I know, in his heart and in his mind, he sees all of that. But, you need the machinery of government to give you the best data and to give you the most effective solutions. And nasa kanila yan, kaya nila yan. Hindi na trabaho ng Presidente yan, trabaho ng mga cabinet secretary nila yan. Dapat nakikita nila yan. Dapat talaga may oversight sila dyan at nakikita nila ano ba nangyayari. Kasi maubos na yung oras natin, kahuhuli ng mga smuggler, kahuhuli ng mga na yan. Napakahirap niyan. Alam naman ako naman bilang mayor, maraming sumbong din sa akin. Marami naman dyan, katulad yan, yung problema, perennial problem sa customs. Marami dyan, gusto magpasok ng legal. Pag pinasok mo ng legal, syempre, walang kikitain dun sa loob, galit pa sa'yo. O gagawa sila ng paraan para magbayad ka na malaki. But these people are afraid to talk because if they talk, then patay yung business nila. Bibirahin sila, di ba? Kaya actually, yung problema dito sa Pilipinas, internal. In terms of resources, my golly, we have abundant resources. It's really a matter of, well distributing them and using them correctly. And I feel, and I see that we have that capability. Nandiyan lahat. And kaya ako, nakikita ko, the law of supply and demand, that's very basic and, it's critical that we look into that. But we have to make a special consideration when it comes to food. That is essential. People need that. Food, medicine, ito mga kailangan talaga ng mga, hirap na hirap talaga yung mga mahihirap dito. Paano natin mapapamura yung pagkain nila? Kaya ako, tinitignan ko, dapat maraming policy na kailangan gawin. Ako sa local government, hanggat maaari talaga. In fact, hindi hanggat maaari. May policy, may standard policy ako. Basta binibili namin local lahat. Kung yan ang gawin, lahat ng local government, ipanukala nila na lahat ng local government, pagdating ng kalamidad, lahat yan. Hindi kayo pwede magbili o bumili ng mga bigas na imported. Lahat ng dapat mong bilhin, kailangan local lahat. Yan ang tulong natin sa mga farmers. Pagkatapos, bigyan mo sila ng isang area dyan sa palengke na may mga area sila for local produced goods. That's one way of also helping them and sometimes even giving special consideration that if you're a resident of the LGU there, then you have a special rate when it comes to rental na meron kang lugar doon para mabenta naman ng kumita ka. At the same time naman, if you see na katulad niyan in other LGUs, tulungan ng national government, kung masyadong maraming sibuyas ang naani, bigyan sila ng mga local, sabihin natin, ng mga storage storage that they can, keep those in areas that, na mas-save nila yan for the next 60, 90 days or even more. Di ba? In that support. At syempre, sasabihin naman sir, Mayor, okay nga dito sa Tacloban, okay nga, maglagay tayo ng mga sinasabi natin ng mga storage yan. Let's freeze them and, let's put them in the freezer and all that. Patayin ka naman sa kuryente. Dahil napakamahal naman ng kuryente. Kaya talo talaga tayo sa importation. Papasok talaga mga importation galing sa labas. Bakit? Pero makita mo naman, bakit ganun? Meron tayong geothermal, isa sa pinakamalaki sa buong mundo. Bakit napakamahal pa rin ng kuryente? Dahil laging distribution. Bakit ganun? Dapat talaga once and for all, pag-aralan natin bakit talaga itong distribution ay napakamahal. At tingnan natin, magpakatotoo tayo, itabi na natin ang politika dito. Kung makikita natin, baka naman mas maganda private sector ang magpatakbo nito. Imbes na nakikita may cooperative dyan, nahihirapan naman sila. Makakulang sila sa guidelines. Hindi naman sana yung mga magpatakbo ng isang cooperative na maging successful at makapagbigay ng magandang serbisyo sa mga tao. Kaya lahat yan, tinitignan natin. So I'm just saying, our hands are full even locally in trying to fix and remedy, situations here. But most of all, we still go back a total study and review of existing policies from the top to bottom, pag-aralan talaga yan. At tignan natin, ito ang mga ibang ahensya ng gobyerno, ang nangyayari, ang dami-dami, matataas ang sweldo, dami mga sweldo, pero tugma ba yung mandato nila para ayusin talaga yung problema dyan sa baba. Hindi nagtuturuan kung sino. Kaya kailangan talaga ayusin niya. Sobrang dami, ang dami na nga ng department natin eh. Kaya ito naman ang sinasabi ko na kailangan tignan, So, it will take a while, yes, but I think, we have to start somewhere.
Exactly. You hit it right, Mayor Alfred, sapagkat yun na nga, na-mention mo yung cost ng elektrisidad, kagaya dyan, one of the biggest really dyan, yung geothermals natin. Anong ginawa nga nung panahon after the President Marcos Edralin left, binigay sa kamag-anak, tapos yung kamag-anak binenta, pataas nagkaroon sila ng cooperatives. I remember when you also were in Congress at one time, we were looking into that at nakita nga natin, hindi lang sa distribution, but there's really something wrong with the cooperatives. So yun, isang bagay pa yan na doon pa dumadaan, etc. and all. Time was when even in Metro Manila, for instance, sa Meralco, we were even receiving mga dividends eh. Yung binabayad namin sa electric, meron pang dividends. And that was government that's running it. Going back to how important it is, Mayor, na sinabi mo na tingnan lahat yan. Our coconut industry supposedly is one of the biggest, where we are supposedly the biggest exporters of coconut, pero mukhang this will not last very long. It's already in already a very sad state. Your area, for instance, is where you have, I remember your father said, one of the best coconut that you have throughout the country. Hindi lang sa mas maraming laman yung coconut dyan sa inyo, but even because you could use everything sa coconut, even the shell, yung ginagamit for uling, it burns even longer. I remember your father was so proud of that. Pero dyan yan sa area ninyo. But you see all the eastern seaboard areas where we plant coconut. Something very sad is happening to the coconut industry.
No, actually, because people have to understand, I think by now, a lot of people realize that already. That's why I go back again when you're talking about rice, because automatically people think that ang binebenta ng farmer ay rice, hindi po palay. So, if you talk now about coconut and you're just selling the coconut shell and whatever's inside there, in coconut mismo, ipoprocess pa yan. Yung nagpo-process niyan, magkanong kinikita niya as opposed to the farmer who planted and harvested the coconut. So you really have to jump to the second step and third step. Maybe it will be more lucrative if we thought and we built factories to make coconut oil. Maybe if we jump, that second or third step, yan sinasabi ko, mga ekonomista, hindi naman ako ekonomista pero ako, practical lang naman ako. They have a term for that And, and that's what and that's why I'm saying, like, for example, here, in our region, ilan lang. Ang gobyerno, halos wala naman ditong rice mill na that can, help our farmers. Kung nasa gobyerno yan at pwede sila, mas maganda na magkaroon ng programang ganyan Kasi yung gobyerno, at least makaka-avail sila na paano nila mapoprocess o masasabihin natin, ma-mill nila yung palay nila at magawa nilang tulad ng bigas, pagkatapos yun ay pwede nang kainin kasi hindi naman pwede kainin yung palay, di ba? So, itong sinasabi ko, this mechanism talaga, and I would say the recommendation really should come from the various departments looking, where we can really help. If you really want food security, then, you focus on that. Then, I think it's also about time we allow corporate farming na. Payagan na natin itong mga malalaking korporasyon na sabihin natin kung gusto nila bumili ng 1,000 hektarya, basta tataniman nila at ano yung gagamitin nila to produce agricultural products, okay, then we can always regulate that by saying, for every hectare that you get, you have to hire 4 farmers. So my golly, if they buy 1,000 hectares, they hired 4,000 farmers. And farmers feel, and I feel also, mas secured sila sa trabaho eh. Kasi sa trabaho, kahit binagyo ka, pagdating ng kinabukasan o pag Lunes, may trabaho ka pa. Kaya mahirap ito kung farmer ka, isang bagyo lang, ubus ka. Ano mangyayari sa'yo? Wala ka naman insurance, di uutang ka na naman, mapa 5-6 ka na naman. Eh dahil siyempre, pag utang mo ng 5-6, paano ka naman mababayaran yan? Pagkatapos isipin mo, paano mo na ibebenta lahat yan? And this is done in other parts of the world. So I'm just saying that our problems here in the Philippines are problems that other countries are going through and have gone through. So it's not that difficult to look into their practices and to see their policies on how they got over these problems and they became industrious and they became now productive. Pwede naman natin, kaya tayo nag-a-adjust eh. Kaya adjust na rin natin sa konting politika natin. Minsan kailangan natin mag-charter change. O anong charter change? For economic provisions. Ayusin na natin yan. Diba? Para maging competitive tayo worldwide. Yun naman ang titignan natin. Pero yun nga, so bago tayo maka-abandon yan, ang dami-daming mga sabihin natin, mga hurdles that we have to go through. Kaya I feel, that really, alam mo kasi, minsan nakikita ko ang trabaho, nakikita ko, naawa ko sa presidente. Kasi, alam mo, people look up to him as saying, he's the #1 economist, he's the #1 farmer or agriculturist, or that's not true. He just now manages all of them. And, all the expertise should come from the different departments and they should recommend and they should do immediately what has to be done. Dapat ganoon ang nangyayari. At sinasabi ko yun sa taong bayan mismo na pati yung mayor, hindi naman ako yung #1 traffic czar, hindi naman ako yung #1 na sabihin natin na pati engineering. I'm not an engineer that will deal with building and construction and all that. So really, perception sabihin talaga sa mga tao na we just hire the most qualified people and then we collate the data and ideas and then we make them do it. And then we give them a timeline. Ganun naman yun eh. A meeting of the minds, of the best minds, and addressing all these issues. And that's really very dynamic. Talagang kailangan pag-aralan yan. Hindi lang pag-aralan, kailangan mabilis ang pag-aaral. Hindi lagi na pag-aaralan natin, pagkatapos hanggang doon na lang. Pag-aaralan natin yan. Bibigyan natin ng 1 linggo, pag-aralan mo yan. Ayan, minsan, nandun ako, nakikinig din ako sa matandang Marcos nung nakikita ko talagang binibigyan niya ng timeline
Yeah,
talagang
exactly.
sasabihin niya dun sa isang department na cabinet secretary, I'm giving you 30 days, I'm giving you 1 week, will you do that? Ganun dapat para tumakbo tayo. Sayang naman yung hindi pwede yung time is of essence, especially diyan pagdating sa masa, pagdating sa mga mahirap, very critical yan. So that's where I'm coming from.
You're correct, Mayor. Sometimes you really get impatient. Our President Junior Marcos, he delivers speeches, I think 3-4 times a day. And he has cabinet meetings twice a week or so. And there you have all the pronouncements that this has to be done. Pero you're correct, the different departments must also perform accordingly. Halimbawa, but just about 2 weeks ago, I was trying to monitor what the Department of Trade and Industry already had in mind when they called for an economic meeting. Pero ang first line na sinabi doon, we are on a high-frequency monitoring system. I mean, ang layo yun sa sinasabing paano ibababa ang presyo ng mga basic commodities and basic food products. Hindi lang yung high-frequency monitoring system na yun ang opening line. Anyway, so much is...
Alam mo kasi, naiintindihan ko rin yan dahil syempre, marami, pag nandiyan ka sa gagawa ka ng mga policy, i-recommenda mo sa presidente, ayaw mo magkamali. Pero sa totoo lang naman, ang isang taong takot magkamali ay hindi ka aabante sa buhay. Yung mga hindi takot magkamali. Kasi yung pagkakamali na yan, dapat mabilis ka lang mag-adjust, baguhin, ayusin. Gano'n naman yun Ang mga policy na linalabas dyan, minsan dapat bawiin. Dapat bawiin talaga kasi nag-iiba ng sitwasyon, babawiin yan. Okay naman yan, hindi naman dapat maging problema yan Huwag tayo maging ang sinasabi natin. Ganun kasi ang sinasabi ko, bale, Ma'am Rita, yan din nahahanap sa Tacloban eh. Minsan sasabihin, pabago-bagong, ito naman si Mayor, pabago-bago mang desisyon. Eh kasi pabago-bago rin yung sitwasyon. Kaya pabago-bago rin ang desisyon ko. Eh mahirap naman kung hindi nagbago yung sitwasyon. Ang ibig sabihin na yung ginawa natin policy, hindi nag-improve ang sitwasyon ng tao. Kaya hindi na natin binago ang polisiya. Binago ko kasi nagbago yung sitwasyon. Kaya ganyan talaga yan. Pero ako, yung presidente, tama naman yung ginagawa niya is to motivate his people really and to give them the general direction. But they must perform. They must perform, according to the direction that is. Because ang sinabi naman ng presidente, pag-aralan nyo paano pababain yung pagkain ng tao. Paano natin pabababain. So, itong desisyon ng mga department, sasabihin nila magkaroon ng price ceiling. Hindi naman galing sa kanya yan. Galing desisyon yan ng mga cabinet secretaries, o ito yung mga sinabi, ito yung mga lumabas na yun. Alam mo, hindi yun ang hindi yung sasabi ko na hindi lang yan ang solusyon. Ang dapat, imbitahin dan sa roundtable talks yung mga negosyante. Tawagin sila, di ba? Tawagin sila isa-isa. Yung mga, marami naman dyan importer, ginagawa na nila, hindi pa tayo pinapanganak, trabaho na nila yan, alam na nila yan. Oo, kaya sa kanila rin galing yung mga suggestion na sinasabi ko na kung damihan mo ng importer lahat kasi pagkain, damihan mo yung importer, sabihin natin, babagsak ang presyo, ilan ang matutulungan? 80 million Filipinos. Pero pagdating sa ani season, huwag natin gawin, kawawa naman yung mga farmer, di ba? Hintayin muna natin na maubos yung mga produkto nila, pagkatapos tsaka natin ipasok itong importation. Pero ang sinasabi ko lang, minsan ang mga naririnig ko, yung importers, big three. 3 lang na malalaki. Natural, magkakaproblema ka talaga sa presyo. Kung 3 lang ang pinayagan mo mag-import, payagan mo 300. O tingnan mo, maglalaban-laban ng presyo, pababaan ng presyo yan. O ang mag-beneficio niyan, 80 million, 90 million Filipinos will benefit. They will have cheaper food and good quality food. So I think, it's basically that, We Filipinos, we also have to learn how to police ourselves. We cannot always come up with, yan sinasabi ko lagi sa Tacloban, konting problema, police, tatawagin. Konting problema, huli ka agad. Pag-aralan natin, bakit nagkakaganyan? Siyempre naman, kung makita naman itong mga tao na to, na makikita mo, na pare, ang baba pala ng presyo ng, ang baba ng presyo ng mga mga bigas galing sa ibang bansa, pero ang dami-dami dito ang competitor natin, huwag ka na magpasok. Bakit? Ang dami-dami na. Pero at the end of the day, na-stretch ng mga mahihirap yung pera nila.
Yeah.
At napapaaral nila yung anak nila, nakabili ng 3 square meals a day para sa mga anak nila, hindi sila hirap. Bottom line yun nagkakaroon lang talaga ng mga monopoly na ganyan kasi kulang ang player. Ang binayagan mo lang na player, baka 5 lang o 3 lang. Damihan mo, 3,000 yan. Sa tingin mo, kaya nila mag-cartel? Kaya nila mag-usap-usap? Kung ganyan karami, mahirapan ka mag-price control. Pagka ganyan, pagdamihan mo na. Diba? Kaya kailangan talaga bantayan ng mabuti yung customs na yan. At huwag nila payagan. Yung mga dami na mga sinasabi nila, gagawa ng mga korporasyon o dami ng mga broker, kung sino-sino, iba-ibang pangalan. Pero sa totoo lang, nasa big 3 lang yan. Tanggalin yan.
Yeah.
Yun naman ang, di ba, yun ang sinasabi. Tignan mo yung yung naging maganda yung sa nangyari. An example there, sa fuel. Dumami na. Hindi na Petron, hindi lang Shell, hindi lang Caltex. Marami na. Pumasok ng Sea Oil, pumasok na rin ng Phoenix. Ang dami-dami na pumasok. Kaya tignan mo, may competition. So hanggat maaari, ngayon nagkaroon pa ng mga white station, ng mga tinatawag na may gali, much lower. Why? Because that is exactly, you have competition. If there is competition and there you get rid of the cartels, then you will not have that problem. Kaya alam mo, dapat talaga dyan, walang favoritism. Wala yung binibigyan ng, okay, i-allow one. Now, isa pang problema dyan, sasabihin mo, sige, wala na mag-i-import, sabihin natin, NFA lang o gobyerno lang mag-i-import. Ay naku, ang daming middleman na naman yan. Pareho din yan. Mas maganda, natural lang talaga. Gawin mo lang ng natural na iba-ibang mga negosyante, marami sila. Diba?
Yeah.
Halo-halo sila dyan. And Hindi na kailangan yung bakit maghahanap ka pa ng mga big time na mga hindi naman kailangan eh. Hindi naman payagan mo, ang tatagal ng mga dami ng mga importer diyan. Bakit kailangan tatatlo lang yan o aapat lang yan o dadaan ka sa kanila? Bakit? Gawin natin, damihan natin. Ako, that is just my simple, But an economist will have a better answer, people on the ground who will see that, who can give even a better suggestion to the president that, para i-address itong mga issues na to. Alam mo, another thing funny rito, Ma'am Rita, ito pang nakakatawa eh. Problemado tayo ng problemado dyan sa bigas na yan. Pero kung tanungin mo naman yung doktor mo, ayaw niyang kumain ka ng
because it converts to sugar.
Tataas ang sugar mo, hindi yan healthy pa sa'yo. Pagkatapos ito yung pinipilit pa natin sa mga tao na kumain ng kanin. Ewan ko. Tumataas ang diabetes, tumataas pa na very high sa sugar.
Exactly, it converts to sugar.
Ikaw, nagko-comment ka rin, nakikita mo, minsan lumalaki nga ang tiyan ko eh. Kaya ako pinabawas-bawasan ko na rin yung kanin. Kaya sabi ko, bakit itong problema natin? Mas murang magawin natin, mas mura ngayon yung kanin dito at saka bigas. Ano mangyayari sa atin dito? Kakalakihan ng tiyan lahat tayo dito.
It still is the staple food, Mayor. Kaya talaga mahirap, as you said, we have to go with the culture. Doon tayo nasanay. Anyway,
but let me add, but it's true. But, actually, I was looking at so many documentaries. We have one of the best potatoes, kamote. Yung sweet kamote natin, napaka-healthy nun. Nagpapabata pa yun. Diba? At saka yung mga root crops na talagang really good for our health. And I think, we have to also dapat tumulong ang Department of Health dito at sabihin na talaga na huwag nang sumama ang loob sa kanin kay bigas na yan. Hindi masyadong healthy yan.
You're so correct, Mayor. Pero balikan natin yung sinabi mo, how important it is that our people do not go hungry. So ano man ang kakainin, whether it's the seafood or whether it's kamote, patatas, or whatever it is. Pero yung sabi nga, poverty is the baseline that brings out people rebelling or revolutions actually come when people get hungry. Kaya mahalaga yung sanabi mo ka na nakita mo ang kalagayan sa mga iba't ibang lugar dyan sa mga probinsya na bisita mo. Now that you're heading the Peace and Order Council dyan sa region, and as you said, siguro hindi na pagtatagal, maaayos na rin yan. So, other than just the baseline of people needing food and so forth, marami din baga, I don't know if ideology is still part of it. They still have the methodology of what the communist violent activities are. Pero karamihan dyan, as you said, as you have observed, talagang maayos lang ang kanilang livelihood and their means of having work and having a job, and yun maayos na rin. So how are you proceeding, Mayor, in the different provinces?
What we're doing here, we're moving for amnesty. Amnesty that, the word amnesty actually comes from amnesia.
You forget already the
committed will be totally forgotten. But this is something that also has to be institutionalized, meaning, alam mo, that's also biblical eh. Kung may kasalanan ka, there is also
forgiveness.
Restitution is also required. So I believe that it should be tailor-fit to, the situation. It is not really a form of negotiation. I don't believe that offering amnesty is a form of negotiation to encourage them to surrender. Hindi naman. Kasi pag naglabas tayo ng amnesty, dapat yung mga nag-surrender na, yan ang bibigyan. At hindi naman bibigyan ng amnesty yung mga nag-avail na ng amnesty noon at bumalik pa sa movement na yan. Kaya ito talaga pinag-aaralan ng marami ng malalim. Kasi napaka-importante ito eh. And when I say institutionalized, for example, after the former rebel is granted amnesty, that should be removed from any, when you get your police clearance, NBI clearance, dapat hindi nakalagay doon na you have a pending case in murder, you have a pending case na nag-hold up, because nobody will hire you. Dapat ilagay na lang nila doon na, you can put there as a former rebel that, or you have a code there that he was granted amnesty, tama naman yun. Para naman hindi mahirapan maghanap ng trabaho yung tao. So these are things that, that we're looking into, and it's being crafted already na. And I thank the people behind those who've been working, and those who've been briefing me and telling me. Lahat naman to galing sa kanila. Nag-aralan ko ano bang situation nila to get them back to, to society. So ito naman ang mga issues na talagang kailangan na bigyan ng pansin at wag na patagalin at kailangan ayusin na talaga. So this is the type, that we have to look into very well. But then again, I said, it's really a plight of the farmers. It's really, most of these really are in the hinterlands and mga farmers ito. So kailangan talaga, number one is more development in the countryside. We have to it's very critical that magkaroon ng road network dyan, wherein, the support and even help coming from the national government will reach these people because they live very far, and hindi accessible. May isang town nga doon bago mo puntahan lalakad ka ng 11 kilometers or you go by the river, and that's the only way you can go there. So, these are places that, we should build roads kasi what comes after roads are utilities. Kasi doon din dadaan sa kalye yung mga utilities, yung mga kailangan ng mga tao. So, that's part of when you do the master plan, kailangan all countryside. And remember, like Samar is the third largest island. And, we have to now focus and see wherein we can help this island so that matanggal na itong insurgency na to once and for all at hindi na babalik. Yan ang importante na hindi na babalik. Para naman we can focus now on our external security and, and get rid already of this internal problem that we have. Now, when I go back lang and I talk of food security, I was talking earlier about bringing down food prices and all that because any mayor will tell you this, that every time tumataas ang presyo ng bilihin, tumataas ang crime. And this is what we're watching out for. That, na especially basic and essential goods that are going up. This is not good. So it really has to be addressed. Now, I would not say that the problem is nationwide. Hindi naman. Because there are areas wherein yung outlet, yung pagbebenta ng bigas, maraming players involved. Kaya there is competition. But this problem of cartel always happens when you only have what you call the big two, the big three, the big four. Wala nang big na ito. Kailangan talaga the big 1,000, the big 2,000. You put a lot of players there. So there's competition. Rita, I sincerely believe in democracy. And, I'm saddened because we've not really maximized our systems of government here. And we should maximize it instead of coming up with shortcuts. And, we have to devise a system wherein talagang lahat ng sistema, sinisilip natin, pinapalakas natin from all branches, in all branches of government. We really have to look at that. And the check and balance, the transparency, yan, kailangan tignan. Ako mismo, sa totoo lang, I'm not perfect. It's difficult to govern a city, and there are always new problems, there are always new issues. So you really have to empower your people. Na kailangan talaga on the go sila. I mean, they're aware of the matter. But, I myself have to go really down to the grassroots and check what's going on. But, at the end of the day, being the father of the city, naturally, I'm concerned about crime. I'm concerned about poverty. That, how, we can make our people more productive. That, that we don't go into, a recession or we don't go into a, situation. Kaya yun naman ang focus ko. So, that is what I wanted to share with you today.
Well, a lot of people are listening, Mayor, and I'm sure other local government officials are also with you, especially when you mentioned about the IRA and all the returns that also should be given to the local government units, as you said. Tacloban is the center of that region, and yet napakalaki ng contribution sa national government, pero hindi balanse naman yung natatanggap ng mga... Anyway, this also goes for other cities and towns, I'm sure, despite the Mandanas law or whatever it is that he tried to do with the ERA and all of this. So, Mayor, we have some people have joined us. I think, let's see who... Andres Teves, I'll just read them fast. Forward-looking master plan for Tacloban without losing its old charm. God bless Tacloban City. Make and viral. Sana tulungan naman na palaguin at pagandahin ng Samar. Not only Tacloban but included order Samar para naman mukhang napag-iwanan ng Luzon. Yes, Mayor is attending to that too.
I agree.
Yeah. Philo Payok, dapat implement Philippine Constitution, Economy and Patrimony Article 12, pagkuha ng Philippine government sa whatever this is. Mga kasong kriminal na kung sino mang hindi tumalima ay pinag-utos ng Article 12. Hirap sa government, ang lakas lumabad sa superpower na bansa, ang oligarko na wala namang sandahang lakas. Hindi kayang kunin ang public utilities. Amparo Consuelo, kung mayroon pong nangyayari sa lipunan at gobyerno na hindi maganda at nagpapahirap sa mga tao, ibig sabihin dyan ay may hawak at may control sa hindi nangyayari. Lloyd CP, good evening from Australia. So we have several other people have joined us, Mayor. We're nationwide and we're also international in a way. So we will be getting their messages always as it is, and possibly we'll pass it on to you. Well, thank you very much, Mayor ALFRED ROMUALDEZ from Tacloban City. I know you're very busy and I'm so glad that you were able to join us. As I've said, character, credibility, and of course, the qualifications of leadership all actually boil down to what you have been and what you are as far as Tacloban City and as far as the region is concerned. Thank you very much, Mayor, for having joined us.
Maraming salamat po, Ma'am Rita. Maraming salamat sa lahat na nakikinig at nanonood. And more power to you. Maraming salamat and God bless.
Yeah, God bless. Okay, thank you very much. And of course, we shall be having our next program next Saturday. Tune in likewise. It will be just as interesting. Again, Tacloban will also be celebrating or commemorating many other festivities, and I hope that someday you could go and visit. This is Rita Gadi for the Chronicles.